Hola, and welcome to Word to Your Mama. Word to Your Mama is a podcast about the life of a Latina creative, that's me, and the lives of my amazing multicultural tribe. A celebration of shared experiences navigating this dynamic world. There will be special guests, mad laughs, and absolutely no BS. Segments by the Supernatural Bear. That's my little man. He's 10 going on 40 because he's an old soul. But other than that, this podcast will be explicit. Please believe it. Now, why do I have a wide range of peeps on here? It's because I come from the music, art, and Web3 industries. Word to Your Mama comes out every Monday. This is episode 134. Today we have a replay of an episode. It was episode 18 that we did back in the thick of the pandemic. It was February 4th, 2021, entitled Gen Y and Z with my godson, Mariano Sepulveda, and my niece, Anna Tingin. So this is being re-released today because at the time, I wanted to get a sense of how Gen Y and Gen Z were doing with the pandemic, with Mariano already have graduated, and out in the world as a young adult, and Anna as a second year student at UCLA, trying to start her life and figure all the things out that you do, that self-discovery during the college years. But, how does that happen, and what happens to your mentals when you're trying to do that and then a global pandemic happens? And the reason why I'm publishing it today this week is because we're coming off of the heels of her graduating college, kids. That is what went down. Graduating college, UCLA, double major in neuroscience and American Indian Studies. We were fortunate enough to witness her native graduation ceremony where they did the blanketing ceremony. It was amazing to catch it because we were in traffic at UCLA. It was move out day, guys. Move out day and graduation day. Oh, we made it to the campus on time, but to the correct parking as we were redirected everywhere, it was a mess. UCLA, get it together. Do better. Do better. So anyways, I wanted to re-release this as, felicidades to Anna for all the hard work, her familia, which is our familia, for being amazing and taking a village and raising this amazing human. And just to see the growth, the growth from being a second year student to now full-blown graduating. I mean, where has the time gone, guys? Okay, so let's get into it. Don't forget, after this is the Supernatural Bear Corner. This episode we left in what he did last time, and then the outro. But in this episode, if you have an interest, I have an honest convo with multicultural young whippersnappers about their experience growing up with the internet, smartphones, social media, and intruder drills. We discuss online ethics, saying no to Omega for kids. That's still around, kids. That's still going full blown. Robo tripping in Japan during 2010, tsunami that Mariano was a part of, and so much more. They share how their lives have been impacted by the trash administration, 2016 to 2020, the uprisings, the global pandemic, and what they have learned about themselves in the process. So yes, let's get into it. Side note, the audio on this episode is not the best quality, but it's because, we recorded on Skype, and this was Skype, guys, Skype. Do you remember them? Yes. So this was only episode 18. So, it's not that bad, but just let me preface with that. All right, let's get into it. Yeah, so it's like a whole nother name. And so I was like, it used to be Gopher Shed or Gopher something, but it wasn't. But they know what I'm talking about. Okie dokies. All right. Today we have a special episode. I wanted to start off the new year. What just happened? Oh.
Wait, how
are we? I got to take a picture of this because what are we doing? Wait, we're on Skype right now, kids, and I don't know what just happened. This is pretty good. Mariano, did you just do that?
Was it? Yeah, I might have changed. I changed the screen view. It was like weird.
What?
Your guys' screen?
This. Yeah.
So you see us? We're all in the steps.
No, you guys are like just two.
Anna, you see what I see, right?
Steps. Yeah.
Like I'm in the back,
row,
and Mariano's next to me, and you're in front. Yeah. You don't see that, Mariano?
No, it's just like.
Oh my! I'm gonna put in the chat what I just took a Snapchat. That's why we're like, whoa! What just happened? I've never seen that before. Watch. I'm gonna put it in there. Look in the chat. Do you see that?
Yeah.
It's coming in. That's what we're like live talking, but we're in the steps. I love it.
Oh, that's pretty dope.
I know.
But you don't see us like that.
I do not know.
How do we do that?
That's weird.
I have together mode. Are you on together mode?
Same. I'm on together mode.
Mariano changed it to grid view. Okay, I can change it back.
Put together mode. Do you see us like this now?
Now I got you. Yeah.
This is awesome. This is the new move.
Kids.
So
fucking
funny.
love it. I fucking love it.
And your microphone just coming out of the rock.
I know. This is amazing. Okay, let me close this window so you guys are bigger. Oh shit, you guys are, the steps just got closer. Okay. That was amazing. I'm probably going to keep part of that in because that's amazing. Together mode, kids, if you guys are listening and you want to be on Skype with multiple people, together mode. And then, did you put that background, Mariano?
I guess. So I was in together mode and then I switched it back to grid view and then I guess it put you guys into it. I don't know. What I did.
But this is your background.
No, my background was the loft looking thing.
Oh, so together mode and we get into the greenery. We're on some steps. I'm going to post this picture. We're on some steps. This is awesome. Okay, so what I was saying, focus. So what I was saying was, I wanted to start off the year with one of, like, you just heard probably one or two episodes starting off 2021, but I wanted to definitely, in the first month of the year, wanted to have representatives of Gen Y and Gen Z up in here, because especially you two, because I talk about you guys. Probably in every episode, I mention something like Anna, my niece, UCLA, my godson, Mariano, especially on the relatives episode, because that's your mama. So before I get into it deeply, let's let you introduce yourselves. Okay, Anna, go first. You're the rep for Gen Z.
Okay, so hi, I'm Anna. I am 19. I'm about to be turning 20, which I realized the other day, which is also crazy out of my teen years. I go to UCLA. I'm a sophomore. And right now I'm majoring in neuroscience, but hopefully I'm going to be adding on American Indian Studies major. But we'll see how that works. And then at school, my job is an academic peer counselor for MECHA, which is for Latino and Chicana students.
Sweet. And then tell where are you at now, but where were you, you were on campus, but now where are you at?
So I was in Westwood in my apartment, and then now I'm in Cloverdale up north quarantining. Hopefully everything goes well, and then I can spend time with my grandparents before I go back to school.
Awesome. Okay, Mariano up next.
Yo, Mariano, 25, went to Arizona State University, got my degree in tourism development and management. I currently work for Elevate Tickets, which was known as the Gingerbread Shed. We sell tickets for live events, you probably for your favorite music festivals, things like that. I guess I'm representing Gen Z and millennial. I'm on the cusp.
You're on the
both.
cusp, but you're Gen Y.
Me?
Yeah.
I'm millennial. Gen Z, I thought.
Millennial is Gen Y. Like, yeah. I looked up the age. Yeah. So you're on the cusp, but you're like millennial, Gen Y, because of your age when you were born.
Weird.
And then, so I was like looking it up because I just know mine. And I was like, I don't know. I know mine and millennials. I know boomers, Gen X, and millennials. And then I was like, what is Anna? And then I looked it up. I was like, let me look it all up. But when I wanted, like, I was like, I wanted to have you guys on, and I was thinking separately, but I was like, no, let's have them on together because I feel like you guys will have a lot of things in common, but at the same time, there'll be a difference, right? Because you're out of Mariano. You're out of you. How many years has it been? 2-3 years?
Yeah, 2017 was when I graduated.
Couple years out. So you're in that certain phase of early adulthood, right? And then Anna, you're in college, second year. And so I was like, let me get them on. Let's have these discussions, just have a convo, talk about so many different things. Plus you guys are, BIPOC and Anna, you're multi-race. Mariano también because you're, half Dominican, Dominicano, and we can also talk about those types of things. So I just was like, I feel like you guys touch on so many different points. So we're going to talk about some serious shit, but we're also going to talk about some fun shit. Just how we'll talk about music and, Anna will talk about our last concert pre-pandemic and so many music memories with Mariano over here. Because like I've said before, even though we're not blood related, you got your music taste from me and not your mama. Because her taste sucks. So what I wanted to kind of just start off on is what's happening right now. How being so young and transitioning during this past 4 years, a lot has changed for you, Anna. You've gone from high school to college. Mariano, you as well. You went from college to like adulting full time. But also at the same time, it's been during this trash administration. How has that impacted your lives? Are you more civically active? Whoever wants to start. I start looking in the sky and the trees.
I can start, honestly. I remember it was 2016 when Donald got elected, right?
Yes.
So, I just remember being like in school, and this is like my junior year. So I remember seeing like, friends, kids who I associated with, classmates started wearing the red hats, things like that. And it just kind of started to show people's true colors and things and how people truly felt.
And you're in Arizona, predominantly red state.
Yeah, it was a red state up until this year. Right. And it basically still is, it's just 45 was on so much BS that people were over it, especially like the Navajo Nation out here dealing with how many COVID cases they had. They had so many people pass away. It's a tragedy, honestly.
Yeah.
But yeah, it was a life. And I was in like, since my program is like a public policy program when I was in school, we had a lot of classes that were like, not debate classes, but, you talk about real world stuff because you're dealing with the public all the time. And so, yeah, it really showed just people's true colors. And then just like dealing with that transitioning into like adulthood and my career, it was just an all around weird thing. I'm happy it like kind of happens because I've been able to see so much already in my adult career and life that it's like, oh man, I'm happy this happened now when I'm, 23, 24, 25 and not when I'm 35 in my career being like, oh, whoa, I've never experienced anything like this, like mass layoffs and people getting fired and things like that. So it's been a lot. It's been a huge like period of just dealing with transformations, 401ks, people sending you life insurance. Yeah, adulting. So yeah, it's been real weird, but I appreciate it so far.
And Anna, what about you? You went from high school to college during a trash administration, and then we'll get into how the pandemic in general has impacted that. But how did the trash administration impact you first?
I think it was interesting for me because so my high school was predominantly white. It was also very upper class. It wasn't even middle. It was like upper, like very rich. It was a private school that was like $45K a year. So obviously only a certain like wealth group can afford that. And thankfully like we got financial aid, so my family can afford that. But it was really weird being in that like very rich white bubble when he was elected, because we all, like, I walked out, all of my close friends walked out, a lot of them walked out, but it was weird for them to, like, it was, again, like I said, it was like a bubble, because one of my teachers, he was Black, he was also queer, he was like, their white tears it's like weird watching them because they're the group that's gonna be least affected by all this. So it was weird, like, coming to with that. And then I definitely think that made me more civically engaged, like going into college, because I was already seeing a lot of what was happening in my high school, which was predominantly white, and then going to UCLA, which is like a big public school. Like I finally saw people who looked like me, and it wasn't just the one person in the grade. And so I think that definitely made me more inclined to like seek out those opportunities. But it was just, I don't know, it was so weird, especially like being in that high school. It's like, I don't even know. It's really weird to describe. But I think I'm thankful for it just because it forced me to like, really like find my identity more, but it was just a very awkward time, definitely.
Yeah, that's interesting. And I also wanted to kind of get back so that people know your age, where you're at now, but also, Anna, why don't you tell the people you're multi-race? So what are the different ethnicities that we got going on here, so that they know the different struggles happening within?
Okay. This is interesting just because, I mean, we might get into it later, but I'm taking Intro to American Indian Studies in the fall, and like my whole identity got messed up by that. But basically, my dad's side is from the Philippines, and then my grandfather is Irish, and then my grandmother is from New Mexico, so that's a whole mix of like Mexican, Spanish, and Navajo.
Yeah. And then Mariano, and then you born and raised in the Yay area. Please believe it. We were watching 840 in two short verses, and we were getting crazy. We were getting stupid, if you will. Mariano, you have a very interesting background. And I will say, too, when I was asking different people if they had any questions they wanted me to ask Gen Y and Gen Z, Chuchi, my rib, Erin Callahan, that I talk about all the time, she was saying, like, you guys are like exceptions to the rule. You guys are very well-rounded. You guys have had amazing support systems that have been exposed to, the finer things of life, such as 90s music and 80s music by, your aunties and uncles and stuff like that. But, which is very, very true. But I feel like there's a lot of insight that people that may not have your backgrounds or may not have your experiences can relate to, just on the fact that they look like you and they're going to have go through the similar shit. But Mariano, you're also very interesting because you were in Japan for a long time. You grew up in Japan. So tell us a little bit about what you told me when you first came to the States, which was Florida, Duval, and you were like, this shit is easy. Education's easy here.
So for anybody who doesn't know, I was in Japan from 3rd grade to 11th grade. I moved to Jacksonville, Florida, November of my 11th grade year, which I believe was 2012. But yeah, I got to Florida, or my family got to Florida. It was very different in Japan. It was very multicultural. I knew kids from all over the world and everything. Got to Florida, it was very black and white. If you're Black, you hang out with the Black kids. White, you hang out with the country white kids. But yeah, once we got into school, I remember I was in a physics class. And when I was in Japan, I was in physics barely pushing a C, kind of one test away from, a D, F kind of range. And I get into the physics class and I'm killing tests. I'm getting A+ on tests and like all these things. And I'm having kids like cheat off me, which is like foreign things to me. And so one day the teacher pulls me aside and she's like, hey, can you show me what book you were using like when you were in Japan? I was like, oh yeah, for sure. And she showed me like 4 books and I pointed to the one and I was like, oh, that was the one we were using. She was like, oh, I see. That's our honors book here. Like you definitely like have been doing some like more, like I see why you're excelling the way you are. But yeah, it was a weird concept and just weird move all in general.
And so like how I feel like we've had this long discussions about this too. I feel like you benefited a lot from those are major formative, 3rd grade to 11th grade, being in Japan away from the fucking bullshit as you're Black and Dominican and you know, you present as a young Black man and not having to deal with, it didn't matter if you're in Florida, West Coast, wherever, because, you know, we're originally from San Diego. You would have to deal with some extra bullshit and you didn't have that in Japan. And like you said, it was multicultural and, you know, you're just in a whole nother space. Like, how do you feel that you benefited from living in Japan? Besides, you know, having a better education because our education sucks here.
Yeah, no, I mean, I think about this all the time. Like, I mean, especially like in these last few months, it's just like, I think if I would have grown up in San Diego or if we just would have moved around in the States, you know, to like other naval states that are known to just move families around, I think, you know, I'd either be doing something crazy, I'd have a kid maybe, maybe even sports. I've thought about that, you know. I played a lot of sports growing up and I would say I was decent, and if I would have stayed, you know, like maybe that would have been a route. But yeah, no, I think about it all the time. I don't think I would be in the same position I'm in now, the same person I am now. Even I was skateboarding growing up, you know, I still don't think I would have the same mindset, the same grind, the same hustle to try to be who I am now and like want to help others and things like that. I think I'd be maybe more selfish. I don't know. There's like, I think about it all the time. There's just a multitude of things, but I mean, growing up there, it's benefited me my whole time being here. Even now, when I tell people I grew up in Japan or whatever my experience may have been, it's still to this day benefits me. And I was so blessed to have grown up in Japan for as long as I did.
Yeah, international. And then you too, and I think you have a similarity, like you didn't grow up abroad, but your family, you know, every summer, multiple summers, you would go to Greece, you'd meet people, you made really good friends where even you went, right? You went to Germany to hang out with the friends that you made in Greece. And then you guys all went to Greece and, you know, it's this international, like your family's so basically my mom died when I was in college. And so Anna's family, like my rib, Erin and them, they took me in and they exposed me to what an awesome family is. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like not that much drama because it was multicultural and they're very inclusive. And, you know, they made things that I thought were like, you know, high class were like attainable, like just shit like pesto. Like, I was like, what is that? Like, that seems fancy pants. You know what I'm saying? In college, I was like, that seems fancy pants. We're like, oh, no, it's super easy. What? Salad dressings from scratch? That's fancy pants. Like, you know what I'm saying? But like, you know, your mom, like Mares, I call her name's Mary, I call her Mares, but you know, she used to come down and visit us and bring us food, and then she used to kick the shit out of me. Like, you know what I'm saying? Because I'd be like, I can take her, because she was like trying to be a fighter. And so, I mean, just like a bunch of stuff like that. So anyways, saying that is like, I was exposed through your family, who's now my family. That's why you're my niece, right? So you were exposed to other people, other cultures. You got to see other countries. Like, I feel like that also was a benefit to you because even though you're multicultural, multi-race, however you identify, we weren't raised in a neighborhood it was just one thing. And I think that's the same thing with you, Mariano, right? You're a multicultural. You weren't raised like, you know, and it's funny because when I was growing up, it was multicultural. It was like Filipinos and Mexicans. We're right by the border, you know, naval town, stuff like that. But I was just like, I'm Mexican, I'm proud as hell, but I was like, I don't want to be in a neighborhood with just one thing, no matter what it was. And I feel like you guys all benefited from traveling abroad, being around different types of people, and not being in like, you know, just like a super, just one ethnicity, like, you know, oh, you're part Filipino, so you just grew up in the Filipino hood, or, you know, you're just, you know, what, you know, just in like, you know, a black hood or something like that, right? So I feel like you guys benefited from that. But I also wanted to see, Anna, you grew up with internet from jump? Like in school and stuff?
Pretty much, yeah.
Mariano, you did it. Did you?
It wasn't until, I have a story. It literally wasn't until we moved to Japan and had to deal with like learning the whole curve, like of learning computers and everything.
So I felt that. I was like, I think Mariano had a little bit of time without it, but I think, Anna, you had it since jump?
Yeah, I think so.
So I wanted to also find out, you know, we didn't have it. Like when we were in college, it was a new thing, like a brand new thing. And we had like AOL, we had the disc and it took forever. We had to use the phone line. You couldn't be on the phone and use the internet. It was this whole fucking bullshit thing. But it shaped us later on, right? The fact that we didn't have it and then we had it. So we're like, that's why I feel like, not to brag, but I'm going to brag. I feel like Gen X were pretty dope because we had a little bit of, you know, a little bit of both. But how does that affect you guys? Like, because there's the younger generations that are growing up that from jump, right? Like Supernatural Bear, your guys' cousin, he's growing up from jump with social media. So how does social media affect you guys? Do you guys just, for our generation, we're like, yo, we're so happy we didn't have it because you guys would be embarrassed of the shit that would be out there just of me, let alone your mama, Mariano, and your auntie. You know what I'm saying? Like, because we're all together doing some stuff. And it would be some embarrassing things that would live forever on the internet. Does it affect you guys? Do you guys think that way? Do you guys think like, oh, I shouldn't do this because it's going to be on the internet, or not because you guys are kids and we're growing up and it didn't affect you that way?
For me, I definitely would say it still affects me. Because first of all, like all of you guys, all of my family follows you on Instagram, for example. So like I cannot be wilding out and posting like, I don't know, like bikini pics and all that, because I know straight away I'm going to get texts from all of you guys. Like, so that is just that's not happening. So I definitely think I personally am very conscious about like what I post on social media. And I think I've come to use it more for like an activist or like spreading that type of information more of a platform, just because I think it allows us to connect internationally in ways that y'all never really could just because you didn't have that source. Yep. But I also think that, again, like it's very harmful and you don't want to put stuff out there. Like I know that like your mom's always saying it like, okay, what you post is out there forever, and like you don't really think about it. But I've had like homies who like posted stuff and like someone else will take it and like this crazy stuff will happen to them, and I'm just like, I don't want to be that person, but you know, if you didn't post it, they can't have that on you.
Exactly.
And I also think it's interesting growing up with it, especially in middle school, because I remember there was like a bunch of bullying stuff that went on with like Instagram and like all that. And I think my parents did a good job because they didn't let me have like Snapchat or Instagram until I got older. So I wasn't really involved in all that. But I know it's like really harmful, and especially like with body image, especially like for women. So I don't know. It's very interesting, especially because like I'm looking back, like I definitely can correlate like my middle school to when like social media became really popular and like very influential for us. So I think that's an interesting time too, because middle school you're figuring out like hormones and all that. So growing up with that was a lot.
And you feel invincible. Like it doesn't matter. Like I remember being a teen, like thinking everybody was dumb. I was the smartest and I knew best. So I can't imagine having that at your disposal. And not only that, there's some kids that maybe have access to it, but their parents are still on them. And that can kind of work. I've kind of seen that. But the fact that, you know, Mares and Leo were really, you probably hated it and hated them for it. But looking back, now you see they did you a service, you know, but they protected you, basically protected you from yourself. Do you know what I'm saying? Because as you guys heard, what was it last week? Homeboy, he held on to that video, Snapchat of that girl saying that racist shit until it mattered. And he went through, and it's not like he was super vindictive. Like if people actually read the story, he went through the proper channels to try to say like, hey, this is happening in our school. This is what she said, da, 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 da. They didn't do anything about it. So you know what? Cheerleading taken away. She had to withdraw. She was forced to withdraw. Like all this stuff. And that lives forever. And she was a kid. She literally was 15 years old when she posted that. And then look at what happened. Do you know what I'm saying? Like, and people don't like, people need to really think about that. What about you, Mariano? Like, Instagram came when you were in college or high school still?
High school, yeah. So it was out, I think 2011 is when Instagram dropped. But I didn't have like a good phone or anything to, well, I think you could only have it on iPhone, I believe it was too, something weird like that. So I didn't get an iPhone until 2013, which was like my senior year of high school. So yeah, I barely grew up with a phone until I moved back to the States. But even having social media, when I was younger, I had MySpace, I think like 3 times. My mom was like, you cannot have this. Got caught every time. The last time I got caught, I was grounded for like 6 months to a year. Like they would go to parties without me and stuff.
Because you know your mom's she should. I always tell your mom she should be a private investigator. You know that, right?
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, she caught me every time. I thought it was slick. So I didn't really have social media up until like my junior, senior year of high school. But even now, like looking at it, you know, it's so crazy to me because you can post something on like Twitter, Instagram, you can just screenshot it now. Nobody knows. Yeah. The other day I was on TikTok and like this guy was like explaining how you can look at your online footprint, like through these different websites and things. And I was like, oh, let me see what I can find. And I was like able to find all kinds of old profiles and things like that, and like old addresses and phone numbers. And it's scary, you know, like I do think activism wise, it's a crazy tool that I wish they had, you know, back in the 50s, 60s, 70s, because man, it would change a lot of things.
You could mobilize in real time in different in a wide range net, like locally, globally, and on that, it's really good. But crazy.
Bad. It's bad. Yeah, it can really turn sour for children, and I think that there needs to be more just online education about just like ethics and how you should kind of handle yourself. You know, there doesn't need to be any kind of rules to it, but I think at least kids and people who are just getting into the social media realm and things like that really need to understand the consequences behind the things they post, you know, or do.
Yeah, and I feel like, and what I try to explain to the supernatural bear, you know, he's like, oh, when I get my YouTube channel, I was like, you are not getting a YouTube channel. I was like, by the time maybe you can have a YouTube channel, I said, it won't be YouTube, it'll be something else. You know what I'm saying? And that's why we don't, you know, we don't post his name, we don't show his face, like his full face. And I was watching on I call it the Tip Top. On the Tip Top, there was a girl talking about just how traumatized she was, because she was one of the first kids that her mom started blogging back when blogging first started. She's like 20 something years old, and she was saying how fucked up it is because she had no say, like it was all about a mama blog. So she was posting all these pictures of her as a kid and doing all these things, and everything was like, you know, the beginnings of social media where you're putting your best foot forward, but it's her life without her having a say, you know? And so that's all I've always thought about that. So we made a conscious decision, like, you know, not to post his picture and stuff like that. And, you know, I got these glasses. We haven't rocked them yet, but I got these glasses where it's a black bar. Like, you know, like
a
sunglasses. Yeah, the sensor. So I have those. We're going to do a video later, maybe today or tomorrow. But another thing I wanted to say was a lot of things have been coming up in my therapy and just reconnecting. I don't know, like, I guess because of the pandemic, it's been a lot of reconnecting with people from my past, whether it's family or friends and stuff like that. And it's been good in different ways. But, you know, like one thing I realized was, you know, everyone's going, a lot of people, if they did the work, they went inside, they went introspective, right? And they're dealing with their mentals and stuff like that. And one of the things that I've been thinking about and talking about a lot is that, you know, you have to let go of people, right? And people are toxic. It doesn't matter if it's family, especially those that are family, because they're the ones that usually hurt you the most. But especially if you're of color, it's harder, right? Growing up, if you didn't have money, it's like this attachment where you feel guilty. And especially if you're Latino or Filipino on the Catholic side, right? Like the Catholic guilt and all these different things. But I was saying for me, I feel like I fortunately and unfortunately learned at a young age while I was still in college when my mom died was life is precious. You know what I'm saying? Like, do what you can now because you're not promised another day. I don't got time. You know, people always used to be like, oh, she's a bitch. Well, no. I'm honest because I don't got time. I you know what I'm saying? At a young age, I realized I didn't have the time. Maybe I didn't handle it as well and I have apologized to some people. But it was just, I don't have the time, right? It's because like shit was taken from me early. So I wanted to talk about Mariano. I'm so happy that you guys are still here, but I remember the day like it was yesterday. You guys were in Japan. Papa Bear and I went out to eat in Little Tokyo in LA. We went like a little date or whatever. This is pre Supernatural Bear. And I remember we're in the Japanese place. They have Japanese TV on. And I see there's a fucking tsunami over Japan over where you lived. I thought you guys were all dead. Do you want to support original content that supports diverse voices? Why not support Word to Your Mama? You're listening to it right now. Become a patron. Head over to patreon.com/WTYM. There are 4 patron levels to choose from, including Good Looking Out, I'm Down, Hell Yeah, and Please Believe It. Benefits include patron shoutouts, exclusive patron-only content, and so much more. Head on over to patreon.com/WTYM to take your support to the next level. Gracias. And I remember I was like trying to reach out. I couldn't reach out. And then Facebook came through where your mom posted, and his mom is, if I didn't mention already, Naisha, that we do the relative segment. And then she was like, I'm okay. And then we ended up talking. How did that affect you, your life, and how you moved forward from that point on? How old are you? What year was it?
Yeah, that was 2010 in March. Pretty much what happened was, you know, I just got out of school. I did my typical thing where I'd get out of school. My mom worked down the street from the school at the hair salon, so I'd go over there, say what's up. I would be playing baseball at the time, but I got in trouble because of my grades, so I wasn't playing baseball. So I just was like hanging out after school because, you know, there's my mom to take me home as well as like the shuttle buses. And if those run out, I can always take the train back home. And so I got out, went to go see my mom, said what's up. Chilling in the food court, which is like right next to my mom's hair salon, just hanging out with my buddies. And then next thing we know, you know those signs that you see in the mall or something? They have like the wires and they just like hang there.
Oh, yeah. Mm-hmm.
We were chilling and the signs are like swaying. We're like, what is going on? And then you just hear somebody say, it's an earthquake, run outside. So we're all like, oh, what? Run outside. And we could literally see the ground like doing a wave. It was crazy, like the asphalt. And so we were just like, what is going on? And the next thing you know, we're like looking out to we're on like on the base. It's like a bay. So we can look out into other parts of like, Tokyo, Yokohama, just other like nearby cities. And we can see like buildings swaying and things like that. And like things like catching fire. And so we're like, we don't know what's going on. And we've dealt with earthquakes, but this one was like a big one. So we're like, what? Next thing I know, I like go find, like my mom's outside too. She's like, yo, find all your friends who live on the other housing base and I'm going to take them home. And I was like, all right, for sure. So I started just like running around the base, like in the like high school gym area, because that's where everybody kind of hung out, to just find whoever I knew that lived on the other base to get them home, because we knew the trains were going to probably be shut, because like electricity was going in and out, where like the trains are down probably. They probably aren't going to do the buses because those people who drive the buses are Japanese. They needed to get home.
Yeah.
So I found like maybe 5 or 6 of my friends. We got into the car. We hop in. There's 2 ways to get home. There was the toll road, which you got to pay a few tolls. Yeah. So it took 4 hours to get home the back way, where it typically takes 15 to 30 minutes. So we finally get home, the power's all out, there's candles everywhere, people are freaking out and stuff like that. And then the like next day, basically, we're like watching news, listening to radio, and the the nuclear plants start to fail. And so within like, I think it was like a week to 2 weeks, they failed because of the tsunami and stuff. And the radiation, it was only like 90 miles away from us. So the radiation was blowing towards the base. And so we had to then evacuate to San Diego after the 2 weeks.
I remember that, man. It was crazy.
It was crazy.
So how did that experience at such a young age internationally, how do you feel? Maybe you don't even know yet, but looking back, how do you feel that impacted your life and how you move in this world?
Man, I think about it all the time. It's just like, you never know when something's going to go wrong, whether it be a natural disaster to you getting hurt or somebody getting hurt or being in that kind of situation. It just kind of makes you think, any day could really be your last day. Take things seriously. And yeah, just appreciate the people you have here, things like that. I also have to add to that story that I was on Sudafeds.
Oh.
So I was like this thing called robo-tripping. I don't know if you've heard of that. And it was a trip the whole time. And I had never told my mom that, because we were sitting in the car for 4 hours, but I'm in the front seat just like freaking out the whole time. And yeah, definitely, I have to tell her about that now since I'm older.
Since you're an adult now.
Yeah.
So how many do you have to take, or what do you?
Oh man, we were doing stupid stuff. So there are these things called triple C's. They're like a Sudafed. There's like these little round red pills. We had this thing where it was like, you have to take more than 4 and you always have to do an even number to like have a good trip. And
that is crazy.
Yeah, it was real dumb, real dumb.
Anna, do you know about this? Do people do that now?
Oh, no.
No.
Because I was going to say, like, in Japan, you didn't need to like, I think I don't know if it's still now, but you can't just go and get Sudafed. Like, you have to go to the pharmacist and be an adult or something and only get one. Like, they only give you like one box.
Yeah, so kids were stealing them. But before that, so they were allowing people to just buy as many as they wanted. But then even like sailors and people were abusing them because, you just take however many you take and you're tripping out.
I never heard that. That's great. I think maybe I heard like they're like Swedish, right? They're like Swedish.
Yeah. Oh,
yeah. That's what it is. So you were
very dumb with me.
That's crazy. I wonder what your mom's gonna say. She's been like, "Oh, I know."
Yeah, no.
I'm just playing. She's not gonna.
I was tripping. I was sitting in the front. We even like stopped at a little convenience store that's like halfway, and my friends were like, "Oh man, are you okay?" And I was like, "Nah, man, I am not okay."
This is the longest 4 hours ever.
Yeah, it was a trip. It definitely has just made me appreciate like a lot of things in life, and just like always living, every day like I can, not taking it for granted, because it could be just gone.
Yeah. Another thing that I wanted to ask you guys about, super curious, is one thing that we didn't have to worry about at all, mass school shootings, and having, even right before you guys went to college or whatever, it happened? Because I was looking it up and I was like, when did Columbine happen? In 1999, and then Sandy Hook was only 2012. So is there how did that affect everything? Like, did you guys have to do drills? Like, that must have fucked up the psyche, or just knowing that it was happening and that it could happen any day. Were you guys like looking at kids like, are they the ones that would maybe do something like that? Anna, how was that growing up with that shit?
I feel like I didn't really realize the implications until I was older, because I remember we had intruder drills in middle school. Ooh. And it was always like, okay, find somewhere where you're not going to be seen. And like, it was kind of weird because I feel like we didn't think about like what we were actually training for, because it'd be like, okay, you and me, we get the closet, we'll just chill in there because like no one can see what we're doing. Like, it's quiet, so we could just, so like me and my homegirl would go in the closet because then we could just talk and no one would hear us. And we're not crouching, like there's no way we're going to be on the floor. This is a dirty floor. They didn't actually sweep today. And so it was like that in middle school. And then like now thinking about it, I'm like, oh damn, like that sucks that in middle school, even in like 6th grade, I was thinking, okay, the closet is my go-to if anyone ever. And we always had to put like the because we were like outdoor classrooms, you could say. So like we didn't have a hallway. We just like went into the outdoor, like our playground or whatever. And so someone had to make sure that we had the med kit, and also that someone had put up like some type of paper, like parchment paper, so that no one could see in the window. So I remember doing that for middle school. And then high school, we did the same thing, intruder drills. That one felt a little bit more like a bubble because it was private school. But yeah, I don't know. It was weird that it was such a normal thing in middle school. And then actually I was doing like research at UCSF for my neuroscience thing. And one of the lead PIs, she was in college when there was a shooting, and she was actually in where it happened. And so talking to her about it, when everything was like how many mass shootings were ramping up, was talking to her about it was crazy because I hadn't known anyone who'd actually been through it. So that got me like a little nervous when we like went to college, and we had to the UCPD came in, and they actually, one thing had happened like 2 years ago at UCLA. So they had to give us the rundown of that drill and like what it looks like. And that person was apprehended. But yeah, I guess it's just way more normalized now.
That's so crazy. That's like, I can't imagine like having to deal with that, like, and especially like you guys didn't grow up in the hood, so you guys didn't go to really hood schools. Like, it probably didn't even affect them there, because they were already, dealing with some fucked up shit, like just having the metal detectors at all times. Like, it could pop off at anything just on some normal daily beef. Like, do you know what I'm saying? Like, I can't even imagine. Okay, so we were talking about the shootings and stuff. So now the last thing before we go into music, and then we go into questions from the audience, and then we'll go into music. We'll end on a music note. But how has it been? How has the pandemic been for you guys, as it affected Anna for college? You, Mariano, you're just starting off work. Like, maybe we'll do it this way. Give me some cons, and then try to find one pro of the pandemic. Who wants to go first?
I can go first. I already know.
Okay.
So some cons. Obviously, my work is heavy travel in the summer. So from like April to October, I'm traveling for work, and that's where I make like a majority of my money, because it's like all overtime and things like that. Didn't get to do that, so was living on that. Pay got cut in half. I can't go out and see people. I'm by myself. I'm not like,
you don't have roommates anymore.
Don't got roommates. I wouldn't even want them in the pandemic.
Please, it's better that way.
Yeah. But I guess one pro is, I've really heavily have looked at myself, my inner dialogue, and seen, I've had many days, many nights crying, trying to figure out who I am, what I really want for my rest of my life, what I want for my family, and what I can provide for my family, and things like that. And it's really helped me open my eyes to just knowing that I have it pretty good compared to other people, and what I can do to continue this as well as help other people, and just overall just be grateful. That's my biggest thing, is being grateful for every day and everything that I have.
Nice. And you, Anna, what are we talking about? Give me the cons, and give me at least one pro.
I feel like cons is just everything right now. I mean, especially I feel like going to college, it's everything you worked for with like, I don't know, elementary school, like middle school, high school. You're always like, I'm gonna get there and it's gonna be like this, like gates open up, like that type of thing. And it definitely was for the first 2 quarters. And then not just like, yes, academically, my classes, I feel like some of them are doing better. Like, I'm not going to lie, humanities is way better than STEM. Like, I hate my STEM classes right now. Yeah, like from one of my labs, I had to watch someone perform a lab and critique their lab by the video. So it's like, I'm not going to know anything when I go back. But also just socially, like meeting people, like, I only had 2 quarters of that. And like being able, especially coming from, like I said, it was like 80% white at my middle school. And so like finally being able to see people like of different colors, like backgrounds, like even just socioeconomic class, like wherever, different parts of like the country, that was super dope. And I feel like you're just getting into that. And in spring quarter, you're just kind of settling in. You kind of like have been through a little bit. Yeah, I don't know. I was telling like Mariano this when we left in the room, but being an academic peer counselor, for some reason, I ended up with a bunch of transfer students. And so they're just telling me like, I don't even feel like I'm at UCLA because I feel like I'm still doing virtual classes for my CC. And for them, like, no matter what circumstance, like they took the CC route and they've been working hella hard to get to a 4-year like UCLA. And I know for other transfers out there who like worked really hard to get to a 4-year, they can't even experience that. And they don't know when they will, because this whole year, I think, is going to be a wash. And then we don't know about next year. So that's kind of, I don't know. I feel like being in college especially is very hard because we're supposed to get all our dumb stuff out now. And it's like, if we do dumb stuff, the implications and repercussions are so much worse, especially now during the pandemic. So like even just going to see that one person can get you COVID. So definitely different stakes. I think a pro though, I think same thing as Mariano, just being grateful because like my family members have not been laid off or anything and they still have their jobs. And actually the jobs that I've had from school, they've actually been kept during the pandemic, which I was very surprised about. And just for my job, being able to connect with people, even virtually, has been super dope. And knowing that I can just help them a little bit at their time at UCLA and give them a little bit of that UCLA feeling. But yeah, I don't know. It's hard. Definitely hard.
Yeah, and like you said, you're fortunate that you got to experience a couple of quarters of it, you know. And I talked to the twins, the Mad twins on here, and like his son just graduated. He's starting college now in the pandemic, so he ain't getting none of it. Like, you know what I'm saying? And if it's your, you know, like you said, you work so hard and you're paying a grip of money to get a virtual, you know, and the STEM classes, like the labs are so important, especially if you're you have to learn by doing, you know? So I don't know. It's pretty fucked up, but I remember, but like, let's be real. I always remember Mariano in the beginning, I went off on you.
Oh yeah.
I gave it to you. Because I was like, what? Where are you? What are you doing?
Yeah.
I was so upset. It was like in the beginning, and I felt bad because I don't think I've ever came at you like that. Yeah. But I was like reaching out to your mom, and I was like, she's like, you went. I go, I kind of gave it to him really hard, but I was like, I needed him to hear it. Like, you know, like I was so upset. Like I was like so upset. But you know, like I told you, we had the discussion. I also went off on some friends, you know, and you handled it better than people that are 20 years older than you. Do you know what I'm saying? Like you cop to it and you're like, no, yeah, da-da-da-da-da-da-da. And then, you know, you changed it. You try to change it and you're introspective. Like all these things happen because I was early on in the pandemic when we thought it was going to be a couple of weeks, maybe a month tops. You know, here we are. Almost a year in, and you know, you just handled it so well. And I was like, he's so good. Like you just showed, like, I feel like during these times, this is when you see the best in people, right?
Oh, yeah.
During fucked up times, traumatic times and all this stuff. So I wanted to know, there's been a lot of friends that once this is over or whatever over is, the new normal of it all, and we're not really on crazy lockdown, there's a lot of people that my friends and I have discussed, like, man, lost respect for, and there's a lot of people that I unfollowed, unfriended, done. Have you guys experienced the same thing?
Oh, yeah. Not even just the pandemic. It's because we also had the election. So, you know. Yeah.
True.
Just like double on top of that. It was almost like if they were one thing, they were also the other. So you could just kind of, exit them out. But yeah, most definitely lost a lot of respect and followed a lot of people. And even like being like socially active on socials and I have a lot of white friends, and it kind of sucked because they would see me as the Black friend who they could go to speak about anything or invite to go do something because I was the cool one and things like that. When it was like, I don't think you see where it's like I forget the saying, but it's like something falls on deaf ears or something like that. Yeah. And yeah, they just we're still seeing me in one light when I'm obviously showing a whole different light, and they're on that same path, not trying to change.
Well, I'm glad to hear it, because I feel like if you're coming out of this pandemic and this trash administration and you didn't lose some people, like you didn't reevaluate, I feel like that maybe you need to reevaluate yourself.
Most def.
What about you, Anna?
Oh, yeah, for sure. I mean, I felt like definitely with party culture in college, I feel like some people were staying the same, and y'all, it really shows. Like, when I see y'all, it's going to be like archived. Like, I know two of you are posted on Snapchat thinking that it's okay. Well, I'm just home, like, trying to figure, like, I don't know. Yeah, definitely those people for sure. Also think same thing about like who's staying quiet and who's posting on social media. Yes. I mean, even some like family members, I was checking on them and they were disappointing me. And I feel like it's definitely interesting, like knowing I still haven't really interacted with my family members who I know voted for Trump, just because of the quarantine. So I don't really know how that's going to be. I'm looking playing like an avoiding game right now, but I don't know. Yeah, I definitely dropping a lot of people when we go back. There's a lot of people I don't think I'm going to want to interact with. But like you said, I think it's good reevaluating stuff because this shouldn't be an easy time. Like you said, this should be a challenging time. And for some people, it shows that it's easy for them. And yeah that means something. And
I have these discussions all the time with my friends. And it's just like in the beginning, I kind of understood everyone deals with scary, traumatic times differently, and some deal in denial and avoidance. But the amount of time that we've been in this and the amount of shit, the number 45 shown, and you still rock with that motherfucker, like that's crazy. Like I just found out I have family members that voted, but I don't talk to them. I haven't talked to them in 20 years. And I was like, of course the reason I knew over 25 years ago that they weren't shit, you know what? Turns out they still ain't shit. And they're Latino. And it's because they live in the rural, center of California and religion and all that shit. And I was just like, well, that makes sense, And a couple of people that I wasn't too sure how they were going to go, they surprised me, Someone I just talked to recently that actually moved to Arizona that I didn't know. I haven't talked to him in a bunch of years. And he was like emailing me saying like, oh yeah, and I was moved over here and and, I was really happy to help turn Maricopa County blue. And I was like, oh my goodness. I wrote it back. I was like, oh my God, I'm so happy to hear. I had no idea because I haven't talked to you forever. And the last time we talked, you were like, and not to say that all people that listen to country roll that way, but you were heavily into country and military. So, it could have gone either way. Like it was like, so that was a relief. And there was like ex-coworkers that are still good friends of mine that, you know, we've had discussions mad years ago when I was in my 20s, as there were Republicans, you know, and I was like, how did they didn't vote that way, even though and I was like, whoosh, you're good people. Like, you're still my good peeps. Like, you know what I'm saying? They're asking the questions 20 years ago and trying to understand. And like, you know, so I don't know, man, it's really crazy. So I'm glad to hear that, you know, even though it's been fucked up times, you guys gone introspective and reevaluated yourselves and reevaluated the situation. I mean, because, you know, I just posted yesterday, like, it's 2021. It's not really a happy new year. It's not really like, oh, this is my year. Because I remember last year we're like, this is going to be our year. We reap. All the that's why I say we reap at the end of every episode, because that was the mantra, like, we reap. And it's just like, you know, I don't know what the fuck's going to happen this year. So it's just, all I know is that I'm happy that we're here. I'm happy that, you know, we all made it, that we're healthy, and that it doesn't matter what is happening. You just know it's going to be some fucked upness. Like, it's not going to automatically flip a switch and we're in some good time. So all I know is that we got to be ready to do the work. And you guys are both like young, you know, civically active, you know, about it. I don't want to say the W word, but you guys are. Do you know what I'm saying? Like, we need a new word for that.
Yeah.
But I wanted to get into a couple of these questions, and then, are you guys still good on time with me staying here? We're going a little over, but we had technical difficulties. You guys still good?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So let's go into these questions from the audience. I'm going to say that I kind of already covered this for her, but Erin, my rib, your choochie, she asked if smartphone, social media plays a part in the decision making. Like, would they still be doing this shit? So we kind of like went over that. So I just want to acknowledge that was pretty much her question. The next question is, what advice do you have for older generations to work with young adults in addressing racism and anti-Blackness? And this is from, you guys know her, Rebeca Cerna Cervantes. She's a health and equity advocate. She was on episode 12. So what are your insights on that? What can we old folks do?
I think possibly just being, you know, empathetic, sympathetic towards younger generations, as well as, you know, Black, Indigenous, people of color, those communities. I think that's usually like what I believe is the biggest disconnect, is just, you know, it doesn't affect you, so you're not worried about it, or it doesn't exist. It's not until you can actually be empathetic or sympathetic to start to understand, like, oh, I see that kid grew up in this certain situation, and even though I have a kid who's the same age, they grew up differently. So now I can start to understand that even though my kid did great and never had to deal with any hardships, that it wasn't the same for these other kids, and honestly, most of America, you know. So yeah, I just think being empathetic and sympathetic is a good place to start for the older crowd, especially with us crazy, lazy generations that, you know, we claim to be.
Yeah, and it's like with the episode with Rebecca, I think we touch upon a lot of time, is that also recognize, it's like being empathetic and sympathetic, but also recognizing your privilege. Like, if you're white, recognize your privilege. If you're white passing, recognize your privilege. If you are of color, if you're BIPOC, but you grew up you're in another you came from a socioeconomic background, recognize that privilege, and then also try to understand. And I think that's a really good point, Mariano. What about you, Anna? What are we talking about? Any other tips?
I think one thing too is I've just been thinking about a lot more, just because of like my college classes, is like pan-ethnic coalitions, and really, because you can do the work, but if you're not asking the people who you're doing the work for if that's what they need, then who are you really doing it for? Yeah. And I think that happens a lot, especially with like allies. And I don't want to say that there's like no allies, but I think a lot of the time, I don't know if we talked about this with the switch from ally to accomplice, An ally is like doing the performative and thinking you're doing something, but accomplice is really like riding with them, asking that group, what do you need from me? And being conscious and knowing that you could be implicated in that, but that's part of being an accomplice.
Love that. I love that.
So I
So you listen to that, people? Don't be an ally, be an accomplice. Ride or die with us. Get in there, get dirty. Ask the questions, ask the right people.
Yeah. And I think definitely within like communities that are non-Indigenous or non-Black, we also need to do that work too, because just because we're people of color doesn't mean we can't also feed into the same institutions that are also oppressing like Black and Indigenous peoples. So I definitely think that reanalyzing.
You get the dancehall horn. You get the dancehall horn. That all the shit that both of you guys said, that is very, very important, because this is something that I talk about a lot on this podcast, is just because you're of color doesn't mean you're automatically anti-Black. Mm-hmm. And there's a difference. And when we talk about, like, I wanted to make sure that when I talk about Mariano, he's Black and Afro-Latino. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, you're not just BIPOC. Like, you know what I'm saying? You're not just of color. You know what I'm saying? There is a distinction. There's different things, different needs, and different resources. There's different histories. We definitely have to acknowledge all that. Anything else, Anna?
I just think understanding, because I think a lot of the times us like young folk will come at older generations like we know what's up, where really we should be learning. And then older generations kind of look at us like, oh, they're just dealing with issues that we've already solved, or like they just can't cope or something like that. So I think there's just on both sides. They can't, like us, we can't just expect that we know everything, and that older generations can't just expect, oh, we've been through it, we know it too. So just to like opening that dialogue.
That's real. That's really real. And going back to your point about like, if you're an organization that's supposed to be helping certain populations, the people on your board, the people on your staff should reflect that. And you also, on top of that, you should also be asking the actual people you're trying to help. And that, as soon as you said that, it reminded me of Insecure, like the organization that she works for. What's it called?
The nonprofit.
The nonprofit. So, don't be that. You know what I'm saying? Take that, watch that show and see how that is not the way to go. Okay, so the next question is from Maria Wren. She's founder and owner of Smart Education. It's a Supernatural Bears favorite STEAM camps and classes. I'm going to have her on in a future episode. So she wants to know, do they think Gen X parents are cool? And are they sick of social media yet?
I mean, my parents are cool. You're cool. Everybody who I know from that era or Gen X is cool. Even like now, meeting people, because it's weird once you graduate college and you like start working in the real world. You have adult friends who are 20 plus years older than you. But yeah, they're all been super cool, especially Gen X. Like, just all laid back, down to earth. I thought I think they're pretty cool. And I'm tired of social media for sure.
You took a break. I remember you've taken several different breaks during the pandemic. And I was like, he's doing, self-fucking care, which is good. Anna?
I mean, I think they're chill. I don't know. I actually just realized, I already told you about my RA, but he was Gen X, and I think that was interesting meeting him like a college setting, because like I didn't really realize how much older he was than me. And so he graduated and he was talking to me like, oh, why haven't you voted in the election before? And I was like, it's my first one I'm eligible for. And he was like, oh, shoot, you young. So, but I think, I don't know, they're chill. I think sometimes the way they use social media is a little cringy. Depending on
what? Give me an example.
Not like you guys. No, y'all are chilling. But like some other, just the way that they post about stuff and their captions, like 2 paragraphs long. It's like, I'm not about to read all that.
I know it's long. I know. But true.
Pretty. I have nothing against them.
I think you guys are both lucky that you guys have some cool Gen X people in your lives. Like you got a good representation. Yeah. And Anna, are you sick of social media yet?
I am, and I'm not. Like I go on it and I'm like, I'm just scrolling through TikTok. I'm just like, this is embarrassing. Like I'm sucking, like the hours are being sucked away. But at the same time, it's a nice comic relief. I can use it like to check up on my friends. So I definitely feel both sides.
And that was is this the last one? There'll be another question, but I'll ask it towards the end. I think that'll be a great way to wrap it up. But I did have a question. Speaking of social media, have you guys been on Omegle? If I'm saying it correctly? You have not, Anna?
I feel like it scares me, low-key. I feel like that's the beginning of like some type of like missing show. Like, I don't know. Also, just the way that my parents raised me, like it gives me anxiety just to like see people on it, like randomly, like seeing random people like that. It's not for me. I guess my parents raised me like that. I don't know, but it gives me anxiety. Like I'm like, who are these 13-year-olds' parents? Like that they're just able to be on here. I know. I don't know.
and Mariano, what about you? Are you on it?
I'm not on it currently, but growing up, yeah. So for people who are around the same age as me who know, there was a chat roulette first before Omegle, which is basically the same thing. And then Omegle came, and yeah, I've been on both. I know what goes on both. Yeah, I definitely think parents need to block that site and any other sites like it for kids. Oh, most definitely, because it's literally, it's not moderated. So, you get some wild people on there.
I bet.
I get it's like a fun thing that people are doing now, like
for the TikTok pandemic.
And stuff. Yeah, and pandemic and things like that. But yeah, I've definitely have been on that site plenty of times and just know that it's not typically the best place for a child to be, at least.
Yeah, because the only reason why I know about it is because of the tip top, right? Some of the people
right.
that are on there, they're on my For You page. They're good ones though, right? They're like good ones. And sometimes I see like bad ones, but I see some of them, the people that, so for people who don't know, it's like, it's talk to strangers. So you're on it and then boom, someone else automatically comes on it and you guys can like deny or whatever, go to the next person. So this one girl, she does like magic tricks, like she's cool, and she guesses your sign. She's awesome. But there's like kids, like little, like the Supernatural Bears age on there, and who's to say who they're gonna see or what they're gonna see? Like, so I can't imagine. Like, I don't know if I sent it to you. That one girl, she's of color. I don't know exactly what she is. She might be Indian or something, and she does the magic tricks, and she also, guesses your favorite song and your cartoon and different stuff like that. She's cool, but she did a compilation of some, and she clicks, the person comes up and it's just a white dude with fucking Confederate flag in the back, and she goes, "You're not going to see me because you guys are listening to this, but they can see me." She goes, "Oh, what we're not going to do is that." And then she like clicks on them fast, and I was like, exactly. So I was just like, this must be dangerous. I was like, if I was young, I would totally be on it, but as a young adult, and it would still be kind of scary, like you. And I think I'd be a little anxious. But it's a pandemic, and if I'm not doing anything, like if I'm not in school at the time or whatever, and I would be on it, and it would be scary. So that's interesting. Okay, so let's get into, before we wrap it up, let's get into the not so rapid fire questions, the AKA slow as hell questions. Staying competitive in these dynamic times means having the right technology at work for your small or medium-sized business. Whether your goal is to grow, downsize, or modernize, Panoply BPO provides the right combination of tools, support, and affordability necessary to make it a reality. Visit panoplybpo.com. That's PANOPLYBPO.com to schedule your no obligation consultation today. Mention WTYM and get your 13th month of service for free. PanoplyBPO.com. There is a better way. Okay, I'll go back and forth. Anna, 3 words to describe yourself.
Okay. You're always the ones that see the symbols. Oh, okay. I feel like I'm pretty hardworking, goofy, and I hate to say it, but like I feel like everyone says this, but like low-key a perfectionist. Yeah. Mariano?
Chill, humble, and hardworking. I'll put that.
Yeah, I concur. Okay, Mariano, what is the best piece of advice you've received?
Best piece of advice I've received. Oh man. I feel like this might have to be a pause that you have to take out. Let me think.
Anna's like, let me think of mine right now.
I know.
I see your face.
I think as of recent, some of the best advice I've received, and just I think everybody's kind of going through, is just, and will be going through once everything is, to that normal, whatever that is, is just, living every day like it's your last, and just appreciating everything that you have and will continue to have, especially once we're done with this, and, just go out of your way to meet new people, do new things, and don't hold yourself back. So yeah, don't hold yourself back.
That's a good
whether
one.
that be within life or something you're aspiring to do or want to do or have been dreaming to do,
Yeah, that's a good one. Anna?
Actually, I think this was from listening to one of y'all's podcasts. I don't remember what episode it was, but I thought about it a lot, of not just getting in the door, but making sure that door is open for the next person.
Oh, yeah. And thank you for listening, Anna.
Of course. And I think I've also been thinking about this, especially just because, like, as people of color and, like, me trying to go into STEM and hopefully maybe trying to be a doctor, like, yes, now that I can get to those places, it's not like, okay, I'm in, there's one person, we're good. Like you said, like, that's not capacity. We got to make sure that more people come in. And so I think thinking about that and, like, how I can play my role in that, and kind of, like, analyzing how other people react, and, like, when they get into these positions of power as well, I think is very telling of who they are too.
Yeah, for sure. And like we've talked about in a lot of the different episodes, and especially the one I think you're talking about, is like, it's great that times have changed. We've seen it in the past maybe 5-10 years, where, especially if you're of color, but especially like in your case, Anna, in STEM, in STEAM, it's women and women and people of color, BIPOC, whatever. But it's I think it's very important, and that it's great that it's changed, where I don't have to be just the only one. And also what I've mentioned before, and I don't know if you guys heard whatever episode I said it, it's great to see your guys' both generations, the collaboration component that we didn't have as being BIPOC in Generation X in the different industries. It was, I'm the only one. There can only be one. You can't step on my opportunity. And I wanted more collaboration. And I was really, really fortunate that there was some unity, and the women that I've had, especially talking about the rap life, we had this space where we connected, we're open, and it was against the grain of coming together, where I see, like, you guys, it's like, oh, let's all roll up together. Let's all come up together. And it's a beautiful thing. And it's just like, going back to what you guys said, is the two-way street of our generation, our generation older, looking to you guys and trying to understand how it's different, and you guys looking to us to try to see how we could both learn. It's a two-way street of learning, and I feel like because I think what happens too is our generation, I'm fortunate that I was an older mom, so I was exposed to other things that I think some people that were, went to high school, went to college, got married, had kids, then their life stopped, and it just turned into being a parent, and maybe they do or do not work, but it's just focused on that. They're not exposed to the rest of the world, so they don't evolve with technology either. And that's one thing I keep telling, the Supernatural Bears Papa. I was like, because he's not real techie. I'm the one that does all the techie shit. And I was like, dude, at least one of us got to be on top of shit, because by the time this motherfucker is like 16, 17, I don't want him to be running circles around me and me not knowing shit. Like, do you know what I'm saying? But what has helped me is now I can look back and be like, we talk about it all the time, like with Erin and other people and Nisha, like, yo, imagine how it would be being Anna's age, being Mariano's age, social media, telephones, cyberbullying. Like, there's other things that you guys had to deal with that we didn't. And going back to the pandemic, I saw this article about how Gen X, our generation, we were made for this shit. We were latchkey kids, so we're by ourselves all the time. Someone wrote, just the patience to make a mixtape. Like, we didn't have streaming service. We had to wait for the song to come on and make sure we had the 2 buttons to record and then release it at the right time. And then, like, it was a whole thing. You know what I'm saying? Like, we didn't have computers. We had, like, the first Nintendos and stuff. It was, like, 2 little dots and 2 little lines. You know what I'm saying? Like, we had to wait for shows to come on, commercials in between. Like, we were out and about, free range. You know what I'm saying? Like, just come back at night sometime, or come back when the street light comes on. Like, we had, so that it shaped and molded us in certain ways, where we also have to think about you guys, internet, social media, school shootings. That's why I was like writing all this shit down. Like, what are the things that I feel have impacted and continue to impact your guys' life? Okay, so next question. Let me see who's next. Anna, what are you doing to dismantle the patriarchy?
Okay, so first, I think through my job, I guess, because my job is like a part of retention projects for like the African American community, for American Indian students. So we each have our retention projects that work on helping like incoming students, and because like we're working with like Latino and Chicanx students, a lot of them are first gen. Like I said, a lot of them are transfers. They're all coming from backgrounds that usually aren't supported within four-year institutions. So I think helping that, and especially because a lot of my students are female, just because I am a female counselor, so a lot of them come to me with that, and being able to especially help them through STEM classes of that feeling of imposter syndrome, and even giving them the language to talk about imposter syndrome and how they feel like they're never good enough, or they got to UCLA on a whim, or someone just accidentally let them in, and kind of like interrogating that. I think that's kind of been my way of helping dismantle the patriarchy, I guess.
Oh yeah, hell yeah, please believe it. Mariano?
Like you said earlier, it's just kind of, checking my privilege. I think everybody has privilege in some way, some way, somehow. At the end of the day, I'm a man. I have that privilege of being male, being born male within America. So yeah, basically it's just recognizing that and speaking up for other, female women just in power or in positions that aren't those power positions, and getting them, or at least opening that door to allow them to be equal as me. And also just, being a male, speaking to my other male counterparts when they're in the wrong, because, there's that whole locker room talk that males have that, it's cool, whatever, but you still got to check your friends and let them know, like, yo, just because we're talking doesn't mean that there isn't somebody in my life or your life who, if they were to hear this, would affect them in some kind of way, or would see you in a different light.
Yeah, that's some good shit. And I feel like, people are listening to this when a friend or family member or, someone that you consider to be a friend checks you, questions you. I know it depends on what your history is and stuff like that. Maybe you've never been checked, or maybe you're taking it as an attack, but rethink that as they care about you. Like when I was going off on you, I was saying, like, if I didn't care about you, I wouldn't even be all upset like this. You know what I'm saying? Like, I'm doing it because I love you and I respect you and and I see your potential, and that's what we have to remember. Like, so, if I can check you, but you can't check me, then that's an issue. You know what I'm saying? Right. But also, like, if you care about your friends, you have to be, it has to be a safe space where you feel you can maybe not necessarily check them, but question them, just like, well, that's not right. Like, and silence, being complicit is very, very harmful too. And I feel like a lot of men 20 years your major need to fucking, understand that as well, because, the fact that you even said earlier in this, and I want to make sure people didn't skip over that you were saying that, during the pandemic, you were crying. Like, men of, especially my generation older, don't really necessarily say shit like that. And, I see a little bit of a shift, people talking about from my generation on social media, people that have a huge platform talking about crying, talking about being vulnerable, talking about therapy. To see that shift, it brings, it's super hopeful for me, you know, especially with all BIPOC, you know, people, but especially Black men and men of color, you know, Latinx, Indigenous, all that stuff like that. This is the type of work that we need to do. So yeah, so just even that, just even if you wouldn't have said nothing, I'll be like, just the fact that you fucking said that you were crying, like that's major on its own. Okay, music time. Mariano, what song do you put on to get hyped when you need it?
Oh man, there's so many, but I would say right now, Playboi Carti just released an album. Not a lot of people like it. It's fine. I like it. I'm gonna keep liking it. But he has this song. Let me make sure I'm saying the right name, so I'm not butchering it for anybody.
I'll put it in the show notes too, so people can hear what this song is.
Yeah, I got you. 1 second. So the song is called "Stop Breathing." It's the third song on the album, and it just gets me hyped beyond belief. It's heavy bass boosted to the max, blow out your car speakers. But yeah, just "Stop Breathing" is definitely that song right now, at least, that gets me super hyped.
I saw you tweeted the other day that you're going to take the vaccine just on the strength so you can see Playboi Carti and probably sing that song.
Sing the song, get into the mosh pit. I want to get punched in the face 3 times in a mosh pit at a Playboi Carti concert, and I will take whatever vaccine. If it gives me a third arm, I don't care. I gotta go.
Dedicated.
But I'm gonna get the vaccine just on regular, also, not just because of, you know, for the people listening.
And Anna, what's your hype song?
Oh my God, I'm like, okay.
Or one of the many.
Okay, I think. Okay, I feel like this quarantine, I've gone through so many phases of like what I thought was like it. So that's why I'm like looking at my playlist and it makes no sense because I feel like it's just going like, okay, this is, okay, I'll give 2. Okay, so my friend like put me on to AG Club. They're like just a group of like brown Black boys.
Oh, you told me about them. Yeah.
Yeah. So their song AG, I always like turned up to that one. And then I was listening to T-Pain because I watched his Tiny Desk concert, and my Kieran's been telling me that he has a good voice, and I kind of like haven't really listened. And I listened to a Tiny Desk, and I'm like, oh shoot, he has vocals. So
he's super talented.
That song.
What song was it?
Where that line where it's like, I'm in love with the stripper.
Oh yeah.
So when that comes on, that also gets me hyped. So I feel like those 2 have been like a quarantine, like,
heavy rotation hype songs.
Yeah.
Nice. So we're talking about music. I just wanted to say, like, I've talked about on this podcast several times how hip hop, just music in general, saved my life, but hip hop has really saved my life. And to the fact that we're Generation X, we can talk to our nieces and nephews, our children, about the same genre of music is fucking fascinating to me. The fact that you guys and I, like, you guys are in your 20s, but like, we talk about the same fucking shit. I know I'm not, there's some people like me, but I think it's also because I, you know, love music so much and I was in the music industry and stuff like that. So I'd love to stay abreast, if you will. And I just love it. It's not like I'm doing it just to be in and be like, you know, being able to name people. It's because I fucking love it so much, to the point where what was our last concert, Anna, pre-pandemic?
Okay, wait. Was it the Omar Apollo or was it the one before that?
No, it was the Oh.
Okay.
No. You're right. Wait, I don't know. No. We went to Omar Apollo, you and I, solo. But then, after we went to the 4x4.
Okay, that's what I thought was the yeah. That's what I thought was
So we're all connected here on 4x4 because I did the branding for it. It was a fucking nightmare. We'll talk about that in another episode. Mariano felt the nightmare on the other side because they did ticketing and we were talking about it. And then Anna and my rib, Erin, her auntie, we went to it. And even though we saw some dope people, we're like,
Yeah.
So that was our last concert. But before that, it was Omar Apollo.
Yes.
And
that was when Dominic Fike came out.
Yes.
Oh my God. That was so dope.
And I didn't know who he was. I just knew him from that song. And you're like, oh my God, you're like freaking out. And everybody was freaking out. And then in the car, you played some songs. And now I love him. The Supernatural Bear loves the Chicken Tender song. He sings that shit all the time.
Yeah.
But he doesn't like the part where he says that she's naked on the bed. He goes, ooh.
Oh, no. And he's Filipino, by the way.
Yes, Filipino and black.
So gotta rep for that.
And I told him, I was like, he's Blasian. He's Blasian, like a little bit like you.
Yeah.
But we went to Omar Apollo because I was like, love his shit. But none of my peeps at the time knew who he was. It was early on the hypeness of him. He was hyped up, but in your guys's, it wasn't like on the next level. So much so that he was at the Fonda. So I got his free tickets to roll. And I picked you up. I from Palm Springs rolled up. We went. I brought you food. I think picked you up from the dorms. Yeah. We went to the show at the Fonda. It was dope. But you were also like my beard. Do you know what I'm saying? Because I was like, let me go to look like I'm her chaperone. But really, she's my disguise because I really like this young kid that's playing right now. It was so much fun, though. That was so good. And then we went to 4x4. At Anderson Paak, he killed it regardless. It was a whack.
So good.
And the Free Nationals, they were good. And I was like, I hope he does the what's that song? What's the name of them when he's with Knowledge? What are they called?
No Worries.
No Worries. So they did that song that I love so fucking much. They did that live. It was dope. And then Kay Trinata was there. But for Kay Trinata, you needed to be hyped
at all. Nobody was hyped
because the people because it was so whack and so like terribly marketed that a lot of people it was like free tickets. So people that would never go to that who don't know these artists. So with Kay Trinata, you need that vibe, right? Because I've seen him at clubs. I've seen him at Coachella, like in a tent. You need those vibes. And right, Anna? We were just like...
It was
terrible. It was super sad. But Anderson Paak killed it. But that was our last concert pre-pandemic. So I'm excited that whenever this opens up, all of us can go to shows and travel and stuff like that and I think it's a beautiful thing, right? Because I was like, remember when I picked you up, Anna, and I was like, Anna, I've known you since before you were born, and is this really happening? We're going to a concert together? This is crazy, right? Same thing with Mariano. Like, we've had some fucking mind because of what we do in the industry, the shit we've seen, the people we've talked to, the places we've been to see certain shows, especially FYF and all that shit, and just some amazing musical memories that I will always have with you. And one of the ones that sticks out, there's many of them, but one of the ones that sticks out is Solange hadn't come out with her shit yet. Yeah. And everyone was like, you have to check out Solange. And I was like, remember you and I were like, what? We're like, what? Yeah. And we went and we saw her that year. She didn't have her album out. And we're like, what? She's good. Da-da-da. And then we saw her again when she came on the album. I was like, this is Black excellence. This is amazing.
It was so good. I shed some tears. I was like, man, this is crazy. The whole stage design, the whole black.
And she did all that shit.
Yeah. I was like, whoa. And I was like,
you got to meet Roy Choi.
Dapped him up like we're family.
And you got to eat his food because I'm going to have him on. I asked him and he was like, I was like asking him and he was like, whatever. Yeah, I'm going to be on. I was like, yes. But that day at FIF Fest, I was right before or No, it wasn't dark yet when you met him. But I remember he was like, who are you going to see? I was like, you got to see Solange. And then because of us, he went to go see Solange.
Oh, dope.
Yeah. I mean, like so many. You got to see Morrissey for the first time with me. And I told you how the Mexicans were going to be. I go, you're going to see a lot of people crying. And what did you see?
A lot of people crying, a lot of Mexicans. Deep, the scarves on, the t-shirts, all singing all of his songs word for word.
Yes.
Him playing Meat is Murder, being mad that he could smell like some kind of meat in the distance.
Yes, all of that. I mean, he's trash now, but his music means so much to me. So to share that with you, when we're in the VIP section, like amazing. Another highlight that just came up recently, because did you guys watch the Euphoria episode part 1 with Rue?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And that song with Moses Sumney.
So good.
I listened to that song. I'll have a link to this. I listened to that song minimum once or twice daily. Like it's my wake up song. I love that song. I have it on repeat so much so that the Supernatural Bear freestyled that same tune, but was talking shit to me with it. And I was laughing because I was like, that was pretty good. But do you remember Mariano when we met him?
Yeah, just casual. He was walking around super tall.
We were in backstage at FYF Fest, and this is how I remember him because we had just seen him in a tent. Remember? He killed it in a tent, did a fucking like death drop type of shit or something like that. Yeah. And then we saw him, and I was like, Moses. Like if I knew him, I was like, Moses. Right. And then we were, because I'm just like that, and we were like talking to him, and I was like, oh, this is my godson. And then Moses said to me, oh, no. He's like, peers. You guys are peers. And I was like, Moses? I was like, I love you. I'm definitely going to go see you in LA when you come. Like, and he was just gorgeous, amazing. He's such a talent. And then put it together with us three here, me, you, Erin, Dalen. So I don't know who else was with us. Remember, we got shuffled in to go see Missy Elliott, Tribe Called Quest, like in like no one else could be in that section. But then who was there? Katy Perry was there.
Katy Perry, she pushed us back, and then Katy Perry got pushed back by Janet
Jackson.
Oh, I remember this story now. Yeah,
but we were like dab in the middle of the whole fucking crazy crowd. So many. There's like we can go on and on, but the whole point is that if you hear the excitement that we all have, and she's 19, he's what are you 25 now, Miho?
5, yeah.
You're 25. Like music and the basis of a lot of these genres is hip hop. Like somehow, some way. Even Omar Apollo, that motherfucker raps in his shit. You know what I'm saying? Like, so that's what I'm saying. Like, it's a beautiful thing to me that I can, reach out to you guys. You put me on people, and I put you on to some people. You know what I'm saying? And it's like amazing. So I just want to say, wanted to end on a high note with music. And also, who is in heavy rotation right now at this point in the pandemic, 2021 January? Give me like one or two heavy rotations. Or are you going to, it could be like some retro people that you're listening to. Heavy rotation. Who wants to go first?
Let's see.
I can go first. I feel like with the vibes of I like to listen to a lot more like island reggae music just because I feel like it puts me in a better mood. So it'd be like Common Kings, J-Bug, heavy rotation, also Koffee. I forget if you put me on, Marissa, to Koffee.
I might have. I love her. And that Daniel Caesar
Yes.
collab remix.
Yes, that remix is so good. I also have that on this album. But yeah, those type of like Fiji, Tomorrow People, like that type of vibe has been kind of like bringing into January 2021.
Nice. I like that vibe. What about you, Mariano?
So I'm usually on that kind of vibe. My music is always all over the place, but I have been on some demon time, honestly. And I've just been listening to very hard rap music like Young Nudie, Blue Butts Clan, Playboi Carti. Yeah, I've been just listening 21 Savage. I've been listening to a lot of just heavy, like honestly murder rap music. Like, I don't know why, but it's just been getting me through the days.
Ready to take on 2021.
Yeah, that's awesome. I'm going to have links to these. Some of the people he mentioned I know, and some people I have no fucking idea. So I'm excited to listen. The last question, there's two questions before we're out of here, and I'll let you guys out. Before we get to the last question, Mariano, what will be your legacy? I know you guys are still young, but what do you hope maybe your legacy will be when you transition to space?
Man, I've been thinking about that a lot. I don't necessarily need to be remembered in a huge way, but I hope that whoever I am remembered by just remembers me as, cool, laid back guy, family member, somebody they could depend on, somebody who they could always call, somebody who was just an all around friend and good, genuine person. Hopefully I can get some money. I can leave, some generational wealth for all of my family and things like that. But yeah, I just want to be remembered and known as just somebody that was dependable and always looked out for the people he loved.
Nice. And you, Anna?
I guess my immediate legacy would be, if in my role or just like at my time at UCLA, making it seem like a more attainable or welcoming place for other female, like Black, Brown, Indigenous students, because it can be a crazy institution. And then I think hopefully, I don't know, I'm kind of thinking about more career stuff now that I'm in quarantine, and now I'm getting like more into like almost my second half of college. I'm hoping that I can just be able to bridge fields and career paths that haven't necessarily been connected or haven't had the best relationship in the past. Just because I hope I can do research, but also make it very intentional within the Black, Brown, Indigenous communities, because in the past, that type of research has been very harmful and very negative. So I guess leaving those kind of like legacies so that in the future, we create like better relationships and better just connections between those so that we can learn more and hopefully like be more inclusive in STEAM and especially in research and different medical fields.
Good one. And that kind of goes with what's happening in the pandemic right now with the vaccine. And, there's a lot of white people and some people of color that have no idea the recent, not even that long ago, studies that were put upon, especially Black people historically here in the United States, but also Indigenous, also Latinos. And that's why and also just currently how we're treated if we even end up seeing a doctor, you know what I'm saying? Because you don't see a doctor. I was listening to on the road the other day, Questlove Supreme, and it was their wrap up and had Jason Sudeikis and the whole thing. And they were talking about vaccines and they were talking about this. And I was like, please believe it. And some of my white friends are like, I don't understand why people are. I was like, oh, let me guess, they're of color? Because we don't trust that shit. You know what I'm saying? And also, we don't want to be the first ones. Like, let you be the first ones, and then we'll do second, third, fourth, whatever. And they made a point. The guy was like, how come they don't just go to Black doctors? Papa Bear, Rock and I just started rolling. But he was like serious. Like, how come they just, well, first of all, that's not even readily available. Yeah. But we're talking about the science and what has happened in the past. And one of the people on the thing, they had no idea. The Tuskegee shit, the all that, Henrietta Lacks, like all these different things. Like there's a book, but if you don't want to read the book, Oprah did a movie about it. I read the book, and I saw a documentary about it, but like all these different things. So I love what you're saying, because it's having that relationship, and it goes back to what you said, like reaching out to those in the community, right? Like they're really trying to promote how, what is it? The Moderna one or the Pfizer one was created by African-American woman.
Oh, yeah.
Right. So they're trying to really push that, but that's not enough. Like we need to be educated. We need to, feel secure. There's so many layers and levels of that, but I like what you mentioned. So taking us out, last question. This is by Lilliam Rivera, author. Anna, you've read her book. You guys listened to. She came out on episode 2. She's part of the Nabi Productions. She's dope as hell. She's like, I honestly want to know if they have hope, and where do they see hope now?
I definitely have hope. I think there's always, I see hope both with older generations as well as my generations and the newer generations coming in, as well as just even the election, being able to see that people came together and actually fought for what they believed in and things like that. I think this year really is going to bring us together moving forward, and will always be a point where we can go into our minds and think like, there was that time where all this was craziness was happening. We can definitely come together and do things like that. So I have hope. I always will have hope, because if you don't, then you're not promoting the life that we all hope to live.
Yeah. What about you, Anna?
Yeah, I agree. I have hope. I think one of the moments where I was like, oh, damn, was when the protests were still like going really heavy. The bigger ones, I guess, because they kind of like, not that they trickled off, but they started to get a little smaller in size.
Yeah.
And I think I went to one in SF, and that was after Breonna Taylor. I think it was more recently after Breonna Taylor, was it? Or I forgot what the timeline was. Now it's all just a blur to me.
Yeah.
But I think I was in it, and when you're in it, I feel like you can't really feel the magnitude of what's happening. And so I was in it. Everyone was wearing their masks, no matter what everyone else who wasn't there said. People were wearing their masks. People were handing out goodie bags of sanitizer, of PPE, they even had like granola bars, Gatorade, bananas on the corner, like anything you could ask for to like stay safe. There were medics going around, so it was a hot day, which like never happens in SF, and there were people who were passed on the side. They were helping them. And just that feeling, and then seeing the aerial view and knowing that there were like more than 10,000 people that day, like when you looked ahead of you and you looked behind you, you couldn't see the street. You just saw a swarm of people just like, and that was crazy to me. And knowing that many people can come out and all be there for each other and not like selfishly, they honestly were there to make sure everyone else was okay. And seeing that intentionality within the, like, being a part of that movement, and like everyone was always like, oh, there's those outsiders who are gonna like make the thing about them. It's like, no, this was about us. This was about each other and showing up for the Black community. And so I think that kind of has been carrying with me. And also, like, if you let people take away your hope, then they won. Yeah. So I think that's also a big thing. Like, even if there's some days where you're like, damn, I really don't feel like I can do anything. Or if I'm in a certain, like, I don't know, when I was back at UCLA and I was in the class and I was in STEM and like I only had white professors and then the white dudes next to me talking about how this is so easy, and I'm just there like, damn, I'm kind of struggling. But if you let them take that away, then they kind of win at the end of the day.
Yep. That's great. That's great shit, guys. And I want to say thank you so much for saying yes and coming on here. I mean, because you're my niece, Mariano, I'm your godmother. And, it's one thing where you guys were in Japan and I was like also hella young because your mom had you when she was 19. So I was like all in my college years. So I felt like I wasn't there, but then I felt like we connected. And I will say again, you got your musical taste from me, not your mama. And also, like, I feel like you guys are both super dope. And like Erin said, exceptional representation of your guys' generations. Also because you guys are curious. Do you know what I'm saying? Like, I feel like you guys have always been curious. And you guys without maybe even being prompted, and maybe because you were exposed to it a little bit, so the seeds were planted, there was a little bit of inception, but just on music, all the arts, like it's so impactful. It becomes a part of you, whether it's a book, you know, a movie, a film, music. You guys, I've noticed on your own have looked back. You know, and I feel like that's what we all need to do for everything, right? Like you can move forward without knowing your history. And just the fact that you do that in music shows, I think speaks volumes to me, to show me that you guys want to know more. You want to know more about your history, the history of the music, the history of your art, the history of your family. I know, Anna, you mentioned, you know, how you're discovering, that's the time. College is that time where you discover yourself. You find your identity. You really get into your agency of what, you know, who you are, what you stand for, and how you identify. And I think it's also a struggle when you're, you know, multiracial and stuff like that. And Mariano too, like you came from Japan, and you know you're back on U.S. soil, but they don't know that you've been to Japan because of we're just you know, the way we look, our appearances and stuff. And I feel like these are important times. You know, even though you've already graduated, Mariano, these are still crazy times. Like I told you before, we've had this conversation. When I graduated college and then I lived on my own for the first time ever, and I turned 25, I had my breakdown. Like 50's like shit, like 3 years away now, which is crazy to even say. But I feel like I'll be cool because at 25, I remember I was like, I graduated college, but I'm not a full adult. I'm new to this shit. I live by myself. I'm by myself with my thoughts. I suck. I don't wash the dishes all the time. Like, what the fuck? Like, it was all these, it's another phase, right, Mariano? Like, you're just like, oh, before roommates, finding out you're not by your parents. It's like a detachment and then another detachment. So this is what you have to look forward to, Anna. Like, do you know what I'm saying? Where it's like just another level of detachment, you know, and finding yourself and being okay. But I feel like you guys are great. You guys are in great positions. You guys are introspective. You guys are respectful of yourselves and of others. And I think what anyone listening to this episode is going to get is that you're just really good human beings. And that's all we could ask for as a parent, and, you know, as an auntie, as godmother, is just like, are they fucking good people? You know, I don't give a fuck how much money you make, you know, I don't want to see you living on the streets, but are you a good person? I feel like that carries on so much. Do you know what I'm saying? Because if you're like that and you take care of others, the universe is going to take care of you. So thank you so much for being on here. You guys are great.
Yeah, thank you.
Appreciate it.
Your industry is loud and congested. How will you cut through the noise while maintaining brand integrity? Regardless of how talented and creative your core team is, nearly all businesses need some level of support in order to communicate their message. From brand identity and graphic design to experiential and digital, let the team at Ritzy Periwinkle help you speak your mind and translate rough thoughts into captivating action. Visit ritzyperiwinkle.com today to schedule a no-cost 30-minute consultation to discuss the best creative strategies for your business. That's ritzyperiwinkle.com. Ritzy Periwinkle. Let's build. And now, introducing
the Supernatural Bear Corner. Supernatural Bear. Good vibration, yeah. That's the positive vibes that we create, yeah. The sounds that make you feel right, we're keeping blazing, yeah. Forever shining this light, we keeping blazing, yeah, boy. Forever shining this light, oh yeah.
Shooby-doo. Yeah. How cute was that SMB corner? My little man's, he was so stoked. He had asked me, because I'm in here while he's recording, doing the controls and stuff. He's like, could you just go and, I'm not going to try to beatbox here, but he was like, could you just, and I was like, no, mijo, I can't do that. I'm not a beatboxer. So I was like, why don't you record it on one track and then record your vocals on the other track? He was like, yeah. So that's what we did. And then he had, little technical difficulties where he wasn't sure where it started. Then I kind of showed him what it looked like and when the little marker was going to get to his beatbox, the beginning of the beatbox vocals. And then he got it like on the third try. No problem. He was like, yes. And then we heard it. And then he called his Papa Bear over and yeah, that was it. Little man's. Also, how amazing are Anna and Mariano? I told you, I told you I wasn't playing. They are amazing. And I'm so happy that we were able to do that. It was early January when Anna still hadn't started the semester or the quarter, whatever they do it now. And, it worked out. I was like, what about today or something? I don't know what happened, but we ended up doing it like that same day or the next day. And it just worked out timing and we had a lot of fun. I will be posting the picture of us on the steps if you guys never seen that. So follow especially on Instagram. I'll put it on either at the actual post or one of the stories. And then if you want to hear I made us dance hall, like old school dance hall reggae playlist on Spotify. And I think that's what it's called, like old school, blah, blah. I'll put a link in the show notes. Also, if you guys want to really be able to just click on anything that I say, we're putting the show notes, just a reminder that you can access those when you go directly to the website, to the episode page, specific episode page. But also if you're on Apple Podcast, on the podcast app for Apple, on your phone, they're clickable links. They're not so much on Spotify, on mobile or tablet or anything like that, but on other platforms like TuneIn and Stitcher, I believe those are clickable links. So yeah, do that. But that's it for now. Next up will be Relatives, the fourth installment of Relatives with Mariano's mama. So we'll see you then. We reap. Word to Your Mama is owned and produced by Ritzy P. Intro beat produced by Nico Beats. If you want to know more, you want to email us, you want to get the media kit, go head over to wordtoyourmama.com. Word to Your Mama is now part of the Latina Podcasters Network. And as always, Word to Your Mama is brought to you by RitzyPeriwinkle.com. Make sure to follow Word to Your Mama on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, wherever you stream your podcast, or download the Latina Podcasters Network app.